Hello and welcome to Monday Night Live. It is the 13th of February, so happy Valentine's Day for tomorrow if Valentine's is your thing, but celebrate your heart health. That's the most important thing. Hi, I'm Yvonne. I am the founder and CEO of Women's Fitness Adventures. So nice to have you here with me for Monday Night Live. So as I say often, I've been doing Monday Night Live for I reckon 6 years now, and started off Saturday, then to Sunday, now to Monday. But each week I share some insights from the hiking world, some questions that I've been asked, and some just analogies for life. So thank you so much for joining me. If you are watching live, I'd love to let you know. Hi, I'm just going to put a note here. Let me know where you are watching from, and can't spell, and whether you're a member or not, or whether you've been watching for a while, just anything, that would be great. I can't see you till you tell me. So hi, Sandy. Hi, Sandy in Toowoomba. Lovely to have you here. Hi, Chris from Townsville, from all over Australia at the moment, Queensland. So thank you so much for joining me. Now, hi, Pauline, just in from walk. That is music to my ears. So lovely to hear. And Sandra from Sydney as well. So literally across the country. So thank you so much for sharing that you're watching. And hi, Diane, as well, live this time, which is great, for sharing where you're watching. And if you are, and Michelle as well, hello. If you are watching for the first time, welcome. And if you're watching for probably like the 250th time, if you've been watching since we started, then welcome back and thank you for being here. I can't see you until you say, well, I can't see you anyway, until you say hello. I don't know who you are, where you're watching from. And Patricia just found me. She is at home at Bribie Island. So excellent. So if you are on our mailing list, you would have received our newsletter this afternoon. And hi, Gay, and hi, Marie, and you are certainly a member. And hi, Kathy from Air. So lovely to have all of you here. If you are on our mailing list, you would have received, everyone should have received our newsletter this afternoon. So if it's not there, please check your junk or spam and let us know. But I spoke about, and hi, Annette, and hi, Kathy, another Kathy. I spoke tonight about what 3 people walk into a cafe. Let's assume they're all alive today. One is Thomas Edison, the other is LeBron James, and the third one is a hiker. And let's call it a wonderful Women's Fitness Adventures member hiker. Now, I would not have known about LeBron James if my son hadn't have come home from his 5-month exchange in the US as a student. But he turned on the TV. He came home Wednesday. He turned the TV on, I reckon it might have been Wednesday afternoon or Thursday. And LeBron James, I'm not a NBL basketballer fan. I don't understand the rules of basketball, but I had heard his name. But he turned it on at the point where he got he put the shot in the basket. This is how much I know about basketball. Put the shot in the basket through the hoop, and he became the highest scorer of all time. Now, he's been playing that game for 20 years, and he scored, let me have a look at it here, 38,390 points. Now, that is phenomenal over 20 years. And he averages 27.2 points per game. So if you break that down, that is 1,400 games on average that he has done. But his accuracy is 58.8%. So the point of all this is how many times in his life and day after day after day would he have had to show up and shoot that hoop to get to an accuracy level of 60%. So 6 out of 10 times it goes in. So if you think about when we start playing a sport where we have to get a ball in a hole, like golf or tennis over the net or anything like that, at first we're pretty, when we're learning, we're not particularly great at it, but then we keep showing up time after time after time and eventually get more consistent and get more accurate. Now, this guy is basically best in world as a basketballer with a 60% average, 38,390 points. Now, he could have decided when he was young that he had made the NBL and, to be an average player, but he kept showing up with consistency time after time after time. And every time he did so, he got better, he got stronger, he got wiser, he understood himself a little bit more. So LeBron James has walked into the cafe. Next, in walks Thomas Edison. So we're assuming they're all alive today. Now, Thomas Edison well, when you look it up, he gave us the gift of the light bulb. If you look it up, there's a few sites that think that he was just one of the contributors. So what that meant was we could all have a social life after dark that wasn't around candles, that we could extend our day into night, and hi Meg, and that we could navigate and travel safely in the dark. So the light bulb changed our world, but he didn't solve that the first time. In fact, he didn't solve it the 100th time or the 900th time. He was testing this light bulb, and after 1,000 unsuccessful attempts, he actually invented the light bulb. But he could have given up. He could have easily given up, and someone else would have invented it down the track, but it wouldn't have been him. So 2 people are now in the cafe. The 3rd person to walk in the cafe is a female hiker, one of our Women's Fitness Adventures members. Now, there's some pretty amazing members inside our community, and I have had the pleasure over the last couple of days of spending some time with some of our members. And I know when we started 9 years ago that it's hard to show up as women in our own world, and we have a lot of guilt around this concept of filling our own cup and giving time for ourselves. And when we think about where we get that notion from, it is about the role models that we've had. And if we look back at women, this is not a lecture on feminism or anything like that, but if we look back at where we have come as women and our roles were to support everybody else. And so if the only role models we have are our mothers who are doing that for everybody else, then it's no wonder that we feel guilty about giving time to ourselves. But let me share this, the female hiker that walks into the cafe. When you show up at anything with consistency over time, you get amazing results. And one of our members today has been with us for, I think, about 7 years now. And over that time, I have seen a flower blossom. And today I was commenting on many, many of our members who, here in Queensland, it's hot. It's in its, low to mid 30s. The humidity, is hovering somewhere between 40%, which is quite low, up to 99%. So, you step out the door and you're automatically sweating. But to back it up day after day after day, for 3 out of 4 days in a row, to cover distances anywhere from 9 to 17 kilometers with a pack in training for an adventure, just watching the foot placement, watching the stability, watching the way the backpack is carried, watching how they and learning how they know and understand their body. But when this particular member, I won't name her, first started, she wanted to go home. She didn't want to continue because she didn't know how to do it. And I think when we put the 3 people into the cafe, so LeBron James, Edison, and our Women's Fitness Adventures hiker, the thing that they all have in common that makes them successful is consistency. You see, it's really easy to give up after your first go. We all might think we want to go on a diet, and if we haven't lost weight by the afternoon of the first day, then it's not working. And we haven't even given it any opportunity to get started. Or we might find that we're trying to save for something, and after, 1 week of, not spending any money, we haven't got the whatever amount that we need in our bank account to do the thing that we wanted to do. But you see, it's that consistency over time that equals results. If you keep showing up as the person you want to be. So if you keep showing up as the hiker, and, some days are hard, you might not want to go for a walk or a run or, a hike or whatever it might be, but you don't have to do it all. You don't have to go far. You don't have to go fast. You just have to go. And I say this time after time after time. And in particular, last week we had our first session of our brand new Adventure Ready for Hiking course. So it's a 12-week online course, and we have women from all over Australia in our pilot program, which is really exciting. And, we're all working on how to develop our hiking fitness plan for where we want to be in the next 12 weeks. And our goal is to start slow and to build it up. And over time, if we stick to our plan with consistency, we will be where we need to be. So Rome wasn't built in a day, but they kept showing up every day to build Rome, to build more things. LeBron James didn't make it to be the best basketballer or NBL player of all time without consistently practicing and shooting at those hoops. Roger Federer didn't get to be the best tennis player in the world by sitting on the sidelines or deciding that today was too hot or he didn't feel like playing tennis. So, there's often that that fear that if we don't try, then we can't fail. But if we don't try, we actually don't achieve anything. So my takeaway for this week is that, I've learned so much from LeBron James, considering I didn't even know who he was last week, that with consistency for anything, you can get results. When we started Women's Fitness Adventures last 9 years ago, May 9 years ago, it would have been really easy to, after, a couple of things, go, well, this is just too hard. There's too many things that I have to consider, and I have to, build a website, and I have to, do this and make sure I've got the permits and all that kind of stuff. And it would have been really easy to say, I am not holding on to that vision of who I want to be, and just go, it's all too hard, I'm going to walk away. But with focus of what we want to do, we can consistently show up and become who we want to be. So if you're sitting there and thinking, I really would like to do a trek or a hike, which is exactly what our Adventure Ready for Hiking team are doing. Some have specific goals in mind, and they're, this is some are members and some aren't, and others are, look, I just need a start. I need to draw a line in the sand and move forward, and this is where I'd like to be in 12 weeks. And that 12 weeks could be that I have a regular walking or hiking habit in my area. So it's that consistency over time equals results. So if you receive the newsletter and you have a story about your consistency over time equaling results, then I would love to hear it. So please just get the newsletter and reply back to me, and I'd love to hear your story. But, like the story of the several members today, the hip flexibility, someone had actually lifted their foot right up onto the top of a post to do their shoelace up, which was just phenomenal. All of these things, the flexibility, the mobility, the physical, the cardio, everything was just, it made my heart sing. We have pictures of these members from 7, 8, 9 years ago when they first started, and the physical difference, the social difference, just everything is quite amazing. And if they had not have kept showing up, then they would not have achieved the results that they have. So if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. But if you have a goal in mind, whatever it might be, if you've seen one of our adventures and you want to do it, like the Pyrenees we just put up today, or you see some other hiking adventure that you want to do out there that's not ours, then you can do it. You just need to work your plan backwards, show up with consistency over time, be realistic about it, but certainly, you can certainly get there. Now I'm just going to check in and say hi to Simone, hi to Kirsten, lovely to have you here, Kirsten. Hello to Karen in Claremont, a shining example of one of our members who shows up with consistency. And hello to Kate. And Kate says here, I totally get that. If you don't do it, you can't fail way of thinking. And, there's some high profile, I'm going to just hold that again, some high profile sports people out there. There's a tennis player, an Australian tennis player that doesn't behave particularly well on the court, who I think he doesn't try as hard as he could, because if he fails, then he's not as good as he thought he was. So I think that, and also, if we put ourselves in a position where we come up with excuses. So, in the running community, when there's running events on, you'll often be at the start line. I'll often be at the start line, and I'll hear people say, oh, I haven't done as much training as I wanted to do. I'm not as fit as I wanted to be. And so they're setting themselves up already for not achieving the result that they want. And you know what? The reality is you're right where you are because of what you did or you didn't do. And, c'est la vie, you're there. So if you put in the effort, if you put in the work, then you'll get the reward. If you don't put in the effort, don't put in the reward, then no, you won't be, as successful as you want to be, because you've set yourself up so that you can't fail because you didn't try in the first place. So thank you for sharing that, Kate, and hi, Brod in Launceston too. So, I think from what I see and what I hear, there's a lot of women in particular that, when people ask me, and I came back from my recent adventures, and people around the world would ask me what I did for for work, and many ladies that I met, because I was in quite adventurous places, were super excited about what I did. But when I go to places where there's a broad mix of the general population, a lot of ladies will say to me, oh, I could never do that. And when you ask why, there's just reasons. And I know that some of you here threw away your excuses last year, which was just wonderful. And to see you, flourish and fly is such an amazing thing. So, we all have time for what's important to us. We all have time for what's a priority. So if your health is your priority, if hiking is your priority, if spending time with family is a priority, then make time for that and show up with consistency and do that. Don't say that you are this when you're actually doing that, because that just puts you in the guilt corner, and nobody wins in the guilt corner. So I'd love to hear your comments on that. And hi, as I said, Brod, and hi, Janet from New Zealand as well. Hope you're safe from that cyclone that's going there. So as I said, the Adventure Ready for Hiking course started last week. We're on our second session tonight, and it's such a beautiful group. We are all focused on our hiking goals, whether they're with us or not, setting some great plans in motion, how we measure and how we track our hiking fitness, but also all the other things that go along with hiking and identifying our hiking adventure blueprint. But during the week, the past week, we had our Welcome to Hiking, which is a series of 3 in-person weeks where people are new to hiking or new to our hiking world. And a couple of questions that came up, which are worth sharing with everybody, is one is around hiking poles and the best use of poles, and do I need to get my foot to match the opposite pole as I swing along? And my view with poles is just start walking with poles and you'll eventually find your rhythm. If we start getting too complicated that my right foot needs to go with my left leg, then we overthink it and we're not actually focusing on the great environment where we are. We also see in Australia in particular that if we look at European hikers or Japanese hikers, they're very efficient. They're not using a whole lot of energy, but when we walk, we're kind of swinging arms and talking and using a lot of energy to get ourselves walking. And it's the same with poles. So a tip is to bring the poles really in close to the body and close to the hips and use them as that propulsion. Use them down low so they're not going above our heart space, and not put them out in front when we're starting to pull ourselves forward in an upper step. Brod, you'd often wondered about the poles, if there's a correct way to use them. There is a correct way to use them, and you can, go on YouTube and have a look there. But really, it's finding your rhythm and what works for you. Now, the poles also have pole straps, and our recommendation is that if you are hiking generally around bush trails where there's no drop-offs or anything, or it's not an alpine condition where there's snow, and if you dropped it, it would roll away, is to not put your hands through the straps. Putting your hands through the straps, if you trip, it's really hard to get rid of that pole, and you may end up tripping further on the pole or falling on the pole on your wrist, which can cause some damage. So that's our recommendation on the poles. But of course, if you're in a place where there's a drop-off or there's snow and it might float away, you want to make sure that that pole is connected. Poles also have generally a left and a right. Now, there's technically nothing different between the poles. They just have a little L tag and a little R tag. And the view is that if you keep putting the poles in the same hands, you'll eventually get your grip molded to the top of the poles. Now, that depends also on what pole brand that you have, because some are more pliable and the rubber ones are less pliable. So lots of, top line tips on poles there. And the other one was hiking shoes. So, it's really tempting when you first get into hiking that you want to rush out and buy everything. And those hiking stores are, really tempting. They will put everything in your path. You don't need, I have a lot, but you don't need 20, mid-layer jackets, and you don't need, 15 pairs of hiking shorts and stuff like that. You literally have most of what you need in your cupboard, I'm sure. And the key when you start is to make sure that, you don't want to rush out and buy the wrong thing, because that's just a waste of money. You want to make sure that when you buy something, it's good quality, it's good value, it works for you, and it will last you a long time. So shoes are probably the most important thing. Happy hikers have happy feet. Happy feet make for a happy hike. And a happy hike means that your investment of time and money into wherever you've gone is actually going to be paying off today, tomorrow, and the day after, without injury, without blisters, without all sorts of things. So just some top tips. All poles should have a left and right, Diane. So just check on the end of the strap. There should be a little L and an R. It took me a long time to figure that out, because I analysed the entire pole. So just some top tips for hiking shoes or boots. If you're sitting there wondering, and our members, we have a whole masterclass on boots and shoes, and lots of checklists as well. But if you're wondering if it's a shoe or a boot, I would go into a store. If you're wearing sand shoes, I'd take your shoes so they can see whether you pronated or supinated, so whether you roll your foot or not, and decide, where are you going to go, what type of trails, how frequently, how heavy your pack, whether you want leather or non-leather, whether you want Gore-Tex or not. Gore-Tex is pretty much standard. You'd have to ask for not that. And whether you want a shoe or a boot. And, there's lots of pros and cons of each, but a boot will give you much more ankle protection. Your ankle doesn't have to do as much work, but a shoe gives you less ankle protection, but also then helps strengthen your ankle muscles. The heavier your pack, the more likely you are to need a boot. And then some trails around the world, you can only use boots or only wear boots. For example, our Dolomites Trail in Italy, northern Italy, in July this year, you can only wear boots on the trail. They will turn you away from that trail if you aren't wearing boots. So it really pays to do your homework with your trails as well, wherever you choose to go in the world. So I've spoken about the power of consistency with the three people who walked into the cafe: LeBron James, Edison, and our female Women's Fitness Adventures hiker. I've spoken about the top two things I was asked this week. So our poles, hiking poles, and also shoes versus boots. And then the other thing I want to talk about that came up a lot through the week and a lot over the course of the couple of years is hiking and our heart health, or exercise and our heart health. Now, members this week, I'm not sure if you're aware, it was in the newsletter, have access and a real treat to our heart health masterclass this week. So on Wednesday night, it's a live masterclass. I've got a recording that I've done with the Dr. Linda Carter from Her Heart, Australia's leading heart charity for women. And we talk about all these things, my Fitbit, my heart rate, my red puffiness, what's a CT scan, a calcium scan, how do I find a cardiologist, all those sorts of things. So that's an absolute treat not to miss if you're a member of Women's Fitness Adventures. But also the other question that's come up is, how do I get hiking fit? And so the masterclass that we have in March is our Hiking Fitness 101. So whether you are currently, looking to step into hiking fitness, or like a lot of our members want to step it up or shake it up, do something a little bit differently, that will be our March masterclass. So there's a lot of information out there online, on YouTube, everywhere, and you can watch and watch and watch to your heart's content, but eventually you have to do the doing. And then when you do the doing, you've got to show up with consistency over time. So look, nothing's impossible. When you break something down, if you have a dream, if you have a goal, if you have a wish, it can all be achieved if you break it down and work backwards and, commit to it. And the effort and the rewards are quite remarkable. So it really is quite special. And hiking brings you all of that, and Mother Nature knows exactly what to deliver and how to deliver it. And that soothing, beneficial effect of being out in nature is such a wonderful thing. So I hope that some of this has resonated with you tonight. Think about, you can Google LeBron James if you want to. He's 38 years old. Just amazing statistics. We all know about Edison. I've got the light shining in front of me here, and we all now know about our Women's Fitness Adventures hiking members. I'm just going to throw up Cherie's comment. I've worn my hiking boots for 3 multi-day adventures and for training without any problems and found them very comfortable. But on the last multi-day adventure, suffered from a very nasty blister that turned into a septic toe. Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's really interesting. I hope that, Cherie, you've seen some a health professional about this, because that's not a particularly nice place to end up. There's lots of things, and if you are a member, and Cherie, you might want to hop into the membership portal and have a look at our All About Feet masterclass that we did. It's really, really important to look after our feet. I think I might have said this before. Every night, after a hike, I talk to my feet and thank my feet for what they've done for me today. I stretch out my feet as well and stretch out my calf muscles. But our feet sweat. We lose a lot of water through our feet, even if we're not hiking. Our shoelaces can get loose over time and our feet bump up. Sometimes our feet, particularly here in Queensland, if you don't wear shoes, your feet will spread, your feet will change, or you might get blisters or calluses or all sorts of things. So feet are very individual, and to give generalized feedback is probably not the best thing for me to do. But Cherie, thank you for sharing that, because sometimes different climates, different terrains, how much do we change the weight of our what's in our pack as well, whether we're hydrated or not. So we do have, I think, somewhere in the membership as well, all about blisters and how blisters are caused. But thank you for raising that, and I do hope that it clears up pretty quickly. So hopefully I've given you some tips and insights into the hiking world this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will be back next Monday night, which will be the 20th of February, before we head off to our New Zealand adventure in a couple of weeks. So thank you for tuning in. If you've got any questions or comments further, just pop them in the comments below. Otherwise, check your email for all things wonderful inside Women's Fitness Adventures community. Thanks. See you then. Bye.